What's up, incredible child of God? Welcome on today's show. Hold it right there. Don't think of walking away because we have been in search of great and strong souls like yourself, my friend, to help us in spreading our message to the whole world. I shall be telling you about our message shortly after we hear a short story from the Book of Wisdom, which relates with your importance in this channel. Where's the book? Here is the book, my friend. This is what it says. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come, follow me, Jesus said, and I will make you fishers of men. At once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing their nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. Matthew 4:18 going down. Interesting child of God. Some guys there are called to spread the good message of God. Well, my friend, I welcome you and call you to help us in spreading unity, peace, honesty, forgiveness, and repentance to the whole world together. And with your help, my friend, we can achieve this and spread other extremely interesting and helpful virtues of humanity to the whole world. Now, my friend, as we are spreading this message, we are never alone. We are always guided by our Maker and Creator, whom we shall acknowledge with the word of thanks before we start. So let's talk with our Father kindly before the show starts. Thank you, wonderful Father, Maker of heaven and earth. We come before you today, dear Lord, in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Thank you for this day, Father. Thank you for the videos that we have today. Thank you for your adorable viewer that have joined us, Father. All glory and love belong unto you. Dear Lord, Father, as we react to today's videos together with them, may you forgive them their sins, Father. Uplift their souls, dear Lord, and may your Spirit guide us to the end. In your holy name, Jesus Christ, we pray, trusting and believing. Amen. Let's dive in, child of God. Good vibes.
I came outside to pick some lemons. Some of them don't have a peel on them. Like, what type of animal does this? I gotta tell you guys about what I learned today because it's literally insane. Okay, so today I learned about the fractal holographic universe, and I'm going to try to break this down to the best of my ability, right? So there's this group of college students, 14 college students from various colleges around the world, and they get together and they make this video game called No Man's Land. The video game is on a DVD, and apparently this is like a very popular video game, right? And the video game has 80 quadrillion planets, unlimited life forms, and the game never ends. So it's basically a universe on a DVD, and it runs on the Mandelbrot set equation, something like that. And the Mandelbrot set equation is a fractal mathematic equation that creates itself as needed. So it literally is a code that creates every single scene as need be. So it is literally like rendering in what would be real time. The Mandelbrot equation was created by some dude like named Benoit Mandelbrot. So they use his equation, okay? And that's how this game runs itself. Now, they're thinking of putting AI and AGI into this video game. Now, once they put AGI or AI into this video game, the life forms will become sentient. They will become conscious. So, like I said, these classes are all about morale. These topics that we're studying are all about morale, right? So, the morale here is what happens when they become sentient? What happens when they start to ask, why am I here? Who made me? How did I get here? Are you God? And what are we going to say to them? Because to them, this will be real life. Now, sidebar from that. We also talked about AI, right? This is the worst it's ever going to look. Like AI right now, this is the absolute worst AI is ever going to look. We can hardly tell whether some things are real or not. You can mostly tell, right, if something's AI, but like for how much longer? We are not going to be able to tell what is AI and what is real anymore very soon. So just imagine if AI progressed a few hundred years, what would that look like? Maybe this world that we're in is code, right? Because they are saying we're in a simulation. So like, what if we are in an AI and we don't even know what's real? We think we're real, and that's why we're confused about what our God is and who our God is, right? So anyway, back to the morale, back to the topic. The topic is that what do we do when they ask, are you God? What am I doing? How did I get here? Right? Because to them, it is going to be real. So who are we to tell them that it's not real? It is real. It's real to them. Severance. He literally chose Helly. Anyway, so he chose Helly because that was his world, right? And he would rather be in that world with her than, any world without her. So anyway, sorry if I spoiled that for some of you guys. I guess, whatever. Anyway, yeah, so that was the morale. One, do we tell them? Are we honest with them? What happens when they start to question themselves? And two, how do we know that we are not living in the fractal holographic universe ourselves?
Many people believe that simply crushing and scattering them helps, but in reality, this doesn't provide immediate calcium to plants. Why? Because eggshells are basically agricultural lime. And lime isn't a fertilizer. Its main function is to raise soil pH, not to release available calcium for roots. If you just throw eggshells into the soil, they may take months or even years to decompose enough for plants to benefit from their minerals. So, how can you make the calcium in eggshells immediately available? Take 2 well-dried eggshells and crush them into powder. Then add lemon juice. Here's where an interesting chemical reaction occurs. Lemon is acidic and the shell is alkaline. When mixed, the citric acid dissolves the eggshell's calcium carbonate, transforming it into a soluble form that roots can easily absorb. You'll notice the mixture starts bubbling. This means the reaction is working. Let it sit until it stops bubbling, which may take 30-60 minutes. Then, dilute the mixture in 1 liter of water and use it to water your plants.
Did anybody else see the rating on IMDb for the Snow White movie? 1.7 out of 10? And it's not even like 200-300 people voted. It's 108,000 people, and the average is 1.7. Just to give you a better understanding of how bad that is, remember when Cats came out and everyone was like, oh my god, this is the worst movie I ever seen. The CGI was really bad and they stuffed it full of too many famous people. It's got a 2.8. Yeah. Sharknado, a 3.3. The reviews are unhinged. Mirror, mirror, make it stop, 1 out of 10. Sleepy, dopey, now I'm grumpy, 1 out of 10. Her facial expressions when she sings are so bizarre that it's impossible to tell if she's angry, happy, or sad. She shifts between emotions every 2 seconds like she's glitching. And a lot of people, I went down a rabbit hole, were talking about the dwarves and the CGI and how bad it was. One review that was like, I can't believe I was watching something in 2025. You could have told me this was from 1996. I'm just imagining being an actor in this, not like top cast, but you had like a couple lines here and there. Do you tell people you were in this, or do you just like, nah, that wasn't me?
Let me tell y'all how women are manipulative. And for all of y'all who know this already, then I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to all of y'all who don't know, all right? I'm talking about all y'all who don't know that when she cries to make you feel like you're the villain, that's all a plan. Even if she started the fight, even if she crossed the line, even if she just completely disrespected you, her tears are her weapon. That's an emotional guilt trip right there. That's how she wins the arguments. She's going to use sex as a reward, not for intimacy, not love, not to make you feel good, but control. If you do what she wants, maybe you'll get some. If you don't, then your ass ain't getting none for at least a week, probably longer. It's not about feelings. It is about power and control. She'll make passive-aggressive comments instead of being direct because she's mad about something. So she's going to start plotting and flip the whole situation on you. She'll say she just wants you to be honest until your honesty does not meet the requirements to enter delusion land. Then you're the bad guy for doing exactly what she asked you for in the first damn place. She's going to compare you to her ex, to shit all over you and fuck with your confidence, or pretend her ex was trash just so she can look like the victim again. But one thing most women do not ever acknowledge is this: if you are always the victim in every story, you are probably the common denominator. She'll use silence as punishment. She'll ignore you. She won't be affectionate. She'll want you to beg just so things can get back to normal, so she's talking to you. That is not emotional regulation. That's emotional control. She'll call you too sensitive when you speak up because she don't want to take accountability. She'll flip it and say that you're the problem, just so she never has to self-reflect. She'll play the "you're supposed to love me unconditionally" card, even though she's got all the conditions in the world for you. Act right or get left. But don't ask her to do the same. She'll say you're not a real man anytime you don't do what it is that she wants. If you set boundaries, you're toxic or you're controlling, you're a narcissist or a cheater or all the above. And she'll tell you, oh, I am working on myself, but that's just a way to keep you hanging on while she does absolutely nothing to change. Growth is just another buzzword. Accountability is what she needs to show you. The crazy part is that she will try and convince you that you are actually lucky to have her, even though she's draining you mentally, emotionally, and disrespecting you, sucking the self-respect right out of you. I challenge y'all to call it out. Try to tell her you know exactly what she's doing. Watch how fast you become the problem. You are not the problem. You just got to take those rose-colored glasses off.
Tips from the ER. Burns, 2nd degree. It's what happens when you won't take your hand off the stove fast enough to go run it under cool water. Not ice cold water, cool water. Leave it under cool water for as long as you can. And don't listen to your crazy family members try to talk you into questionable home remedies like mayonnaise, mustard, and toothpaste. Just use cool water. If you don't quickly cool down a burned body part, that heat will travel into the second layer of your skin, turning your 1st degree burn into a 2nd degree burn, making you slightly more fucked. You'll know it's a 2nd degree burn because it's gonna start to swell up and blister. But don't pop those blisters, motherfuckers! If you pop those blisters, that area is now an open wound, making it more easily infected and making you slightly more fucked. But if it's already popped, don't you worry. Clean it off with cool water, wrap it up in something loose that won't stick to it, and get your ass down to the ER. We'll make sure it's not that serious, get you some ointment, wrap you back up, and send you back into the wild.
We've all been there where, you're making a cup of tea or like cup of soup or whatever it might be. You're putting your milk in, you want to mix it up with your teaspoon. So the problem you get, when you stir constantly like this, you set the fluid in motion in what's called a steady flow that keeps going round and round and round. And essentially one of the kind of interesting bits of fluid mechanics which always pops up in my head when I'm doing this is that a steady flow doesn't mix. So if you stir your tea too regularly, you're actually mixing it much less efficiently than if you kind of just go a bit crazy. So you can save yourself a couple of valuable seconds of stirring time by, having some crazy pattern rather than just going round and round in circles. It makes it taste more mathematical. Yeah, which as anyone will know, is a sweeter taste than adding sugar.
Stuff. I didn't know there is some way to stir your tea or soup. Did you know, my friend? And apparently, you've been wasting more seconds in your life. You see? Like, how many seconds do you think you've wasted all together summed up while stirring your soup or milk or even tea? Myself, I think I've lost days. You see? It's high time we start trying out the new tricks. And all this is for entertainment purposes. My friend, leave your comments and thoughts of what you've just seen and all those things you have seen together down below. Let's continue watching, my friend. Prepare your minds for more interesting stuff coming up.
You got to hear what this ex-Satanist calls the wall of protection around a Christian. Check this out.
Christians are not recognized solely by the Bible they carry or the number of fellowships they attend. In the spiritual realm, they are distinguished by a constant radiant light, akin to a brilliant candle within their hearts, a luminous halo around their heads, or an encircling wall of fire. When a Christian walks, angels accompany them, one on their right, one on their left, and one behind, shielding them from our reach. Our only means of success is to lead them into sin, thereby creating an opening for us to infiltrate their lives. When a Christian is driving, we find they are never alone in the car, always accompanied by an angel. If only Christians comprehended the full extent of God's blessings, they would refrain from sin and live with vigilance.
When you go to someone's house and you see them cooking, you see them rushing around the kitchen, the first thing you should do is say, "How can I help you?" And actually be ready to help. If they say, no, it's fine, you don't have to help, say, "You know what, I'm gonna help by washing these dishes." Start washing dishes, because it doesn't matter where you're at, everybody can use some help washing the dishes. Or you can help, what are some things I can put out for you? Or can I grab the napkins for you? Can I set the table for you? Get involved and help. I am obsessed when a woman walks into my house and says, "How can I help?" And not because I want her to help, because it's a reflection of who she is. First thing you should do when you walk in someone's house, say, "How can I help?"
No matter how many surgeries you have or chemicals you inject, if you're born with male DNA in every cell of your body, you can never become a woman. You're not going to be a woman.
Part 2 of Parents, what's the funniest lie you've told your kids? To the lies. My daughter won't eat chicken, but she'll eat white steak. Very gourmet and bougie. That is, she's good Monday through Friday. She doesn't have to go to school Saturday and Sunday. Wow! I heard a mom say that she would tell her kids that mannequins were actually kids who didn't listen in the store. That kid's traumatized. That they couldn't bring bugs into the house because their moms were expecting them home for dinner. My child won't eat big meals, but he'll eat big snacks. I told my son that the mayor wouldn't let us get another dog. Guess who visited my son's kindergarten class the next week and was asked why people in the city could only have 2 dogs? Busted! My dad told me the bumps on the side of the road were braille so the visually impaired could still drive. I believed it for years. That our Labrador was an ex-drug detection dog that we adopted from the airport, so when they started high school, they didn't try to be shifty. My TV has to charge at least 2 to 3 times a day. It can't charge while on. I can tell if you're ovulating within 5 seconds, and I don't need any fancy tests to do it. Want to know my secret? I'm Dr. Slanas Ghazal. I'm a double board certified fertility doctor and OBGYN, and as someone who thinks and talks about ovulation basically every day, I got you. Let's talk about the quickest, easiest way to tell if you're ovulating, and it's actually pretty accurate too. Ovulation is critical when you're trying to get pregnant. It's the release of an egg from a follicle, and that egg is your one shot to get pregnant that month. Once that egg is released, it has 12 to 24 hours to get fertilized by sperm before it disappears, so knowing if and when you're ovulating is super important. Now, there are several different ways to tell if you're ovulating. You can do a blood test to figure out your progesterone level. You can do test strips to check the level of LH hormone in your urine. You can do ultrasounds to look for the dominant follicle or the corpus luteum. You can check your cervical mucus. You can track your basal body temperature. There's a number of different ways that you can do it. These methods are all fine and do the job. But the quickest way that I can tell if you're ovulating or not without having to do any tests at all is to find out if you're having regular monthly periods. If you're getting a period every 28 to 30 days, plus or minus a couple of days each month, there's a really high likelihood that you're ovulating. How am I so confident about that? Well, think about what getting your period actually means happened physiologically in your body. It means that you produce a dominant follicle that contained an egg. That egg was released or ovulated. That dominant follicle then transforms into something called the corpus luteum that begins making progesterone hormone, and that acts on the uterine lining to prepare it for pregnancy. But if a pregnancy doesn't happen, the corpus luteum begins to break down, progesterone levels drop, and that signals the uterine lining to begin shedding, and that's the start of your period. So in other words, to get a true period, you had to have ovulated earlier in the cycle. So if you're really worried about whether or not you're ovulating, think about whether you're having regular monthly cycles. If you're not, it's important to talk to a board-certified fertility doctor to try to identify the reasons why you're not having regular periods and talk about strategies to help get you ovulating.
We thought it might be useful to hear some of the text conversation that was exchanged via Signal. Now, using artificial intelligence software, CNN has created an audio version of the group chat. The voices used are reading the text neutrally. No attempt has been made to imitate the actual voices of the officials or alter the text exchange in any way. Present on the Signal chat, in addition to the Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg, were National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, who admits he accidentally added Goldberg to the chat, Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, and Middle East Special Envoy Steve Witkoff.
Team. Establishing a principals group for coordination on Houthis, particularly for over the next 72 hours. My deputy Alex Wong is pulling together a Tiger team at deputy/agency chief of staff level, following up from the meeting in the sit room this morning for action items, and we'll be sending that out later this evening. Please provide the best staff POC from your team for us to coordinate with over the next couple days and over the weekend. Thanks.
Mike Needham for State. Andy Baker for VP.
Joe Kent for DNI.
Dan Katz for Treasury.
Dan Caldwell for DOD.
Brian McCormick for NSC.
Team. You should have a statement of conclusions with taskings per the President's guidance this morning in your high-side inboxes. State and DOD. We developed suggested notification lists for regional allies and partners. Joint Staff is sending this AM a more specific sequence of events in the coming days, and we will work with DOD to ensure COS, OVP, and POTUS are briefed.
Team, I am out for the day doing an economic event in Michigan, but I think we are making a mistake. 3% of U.S. trade runs through the Suez. 40% of European trade does. There is a real risk that the public doesn't understand this, or why it's necessary. The strongest reason to do this is, as POTUS said, to send a message. But I am not sure the President is aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. There's a further risk that we see a moderate to severe spike in oil prices. I am willing to support the consensus of the team and keep these concerns to myself. But there is a strong argument for delaying this a month, doing the messaging work on why this matters, seeing where the economy is, etc.
There is nothing time-sensitive driving the timeline. We'll have the exact same options in a month. The Israelis will likely take strikes and therefore ask us for more support to replenish whatever they use against the Houthis. But that's a minor factor. I will send you the unclassed data we pulled on BAM shipping.
From CIA perspective, we are mobilizing assets to support now, but a delay would not negatively impact us, and additional time would be used to identify better starting points for coverage on Houthi leadership.
VP, I understand your concerns and fully support you raising with POTUS. Important considerations, most of which are tough to know how they play out. Economy, Ukraine peace, Gaza, etc. I think messaging is going to be tough no matter what. Nobody knows who the Houthis are, which is why we would need to stay focused on 1. Biden failed, and 2. Iran funded. Waiting a few weeks or a month does not fundamentally change the calculus. 2 immediate risks on waiting. 1. This leaks, and we look indecisive. 2. Israel takes an action first, or Gaza ceasefire falls apart, and we don't get to start this on our own terms. We can manage both. We are prepared to execute, and if I had final go or no-go vote, I believe we should. This, not about the Houthis. I see it as 2 things. 1. Restoring freedom of navigation, a core national interest, and 2. Re-establish deterrence, which Biden cratered. But we can easily pause. And if we do, I will do all we can to enforce 100% OPSEC. I welcome other thoughts.
The trade figures we have are 15% of global and 30% of container. It's difficult to break that down to U.S. specific because much of the container, either going through the Red Sea still or around the Cape of Good Hope, are components going to Europe that turns into manufactured goods for transatlantic trade to the United States. Whether we pull the plug or not today, European navies do not have the capability to defend against the types of sophisticated, anti-ship, cruise missiles, and drones the Houthis are now using. So whether it's now or several weeks from now, it will have to be the United States that reopens these shipping lanes. Per the President's request, we are working with DOD and state to determine how to compile the cost associated and levy them on the Europeans. As we stated in the first PC, we have a fundamental decision of allowing the sea lanes to remain closed or to reopen them now or later. We are the only ones with the capability, unfortunately. From a messaging standpoint, we absolutely add this to of horribles on why the Europeans must invest in their defense.
At Pete Hegseth, if you think we should do it, let's go. I just hate bailing Europe out again. Let's just make sure our messaging is tight here. And if there are things we can do up front to minimize risk to Saudi oil facilities, we should do it.
VP, I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic. But Mike is correct. We are the only ones on the planet, on our side of the ledger, who can do this. Nobody else even close. Question is timing. I feel like now's as good a time as any, given POTUS' directive to reopen shipping lanes. I think we should go, but POTUS still retains 24 hours of decision space.
As I heard it, the president was clear. Green light, but we soon make clear to Egypt and Europe what we expect in return. We also need to figure out how to enforce such a requirement. E.g., if Europe doesn't remunerate, then what? If the US successfully restores freedom of navigation at great cost, there needs to be some further economic gain extracted in return.
Agree. Team update. Time now. 1144 ET. Weather is favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM. We are a go for mission launch. 1215 ET. F-18's launch. First strike package. 1345. Trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Also, strike drones launch. MQ-9s. 1410. More F-18s launch. Second strike package. 1415. Strike drones on target. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop, pending earlier trigger-based targets. 1536. F-18 second strike starts. Also, first sea-based Tomahawks launched. More to follow per timeline. We are currently clean on OPSEC. Godspeed to our warriors.
I will say a prayer for victory.
VP, building collapsed. Had multiple positive ID. Pete. Gorilla, the IC, amazing job.
What?
Typing too fast. The first target, their top missile guy, we had positive ID of him walking into his girlfriend's building and it's now collapsed.
Excellent.
A good start.
Good job, Pete, and your team.
The team in MAL did a great job as well.
Great work all. Powerful start.
CENTCOM is on point. Great job all. More strikes ongoing for hours tonight, and will provide full initial report tomorrow, but on time, on target, and good readouts so far.
Kudos to all, most particularly those in theater and CENTCOM. Really great. God bless.
Great work in effects.